Hey guys, here I am again, Cole's Corner, talking about Right You So Will. And today I'm going to jump straight into the most important part of Right You So Will, which in some cases people believe that Right You So Will very much depends on a movement of the will and the release of old suppressed, judged, nailed, crucified emotions, but actually most of the power of the movement begins with the judgment release. Okay, so without releasing judgments, we're actually constructing reality, because every thought we have creates a segment of the world we see. So what we don't see is that we made it. That actually comes from us as a reflection, and some of it is obviously an established reality, but because we name it, because we judge it, because we think that we know what it is, that's what we're going to see. And so that's why we need to really look profoundly into how to release judgments and constructs, yeah? Because what judgments become, they become like a thought forms that attach to the thinker, right? And then the feeling becomes the power behind each thought form, you see? And so unless the thoughts move, the emotions underneath them can, of course it can be released, but it could be circular if you're expressing an emotion, right? And you're still finding that you still have a charge around certain things. So judgment release, and obviously from judgment release comes a slightly different attitude towards our feelings. And once the structure or the construct is deconstructed, that, I think I used this once, like we think we are in a world, but we're actually like in this igloo, where all we see is these reflections of our construct of thoughts, and it's a structure, it's like a house. In that sense, it's a house of illusion, right? And we're not really seeing truly. Like everything we see is not speaking of the God it is to us. We've already nailed it, we already projected it. So deconstructing reality is fantastic. One of the most powerful things that actually I found, and I find Right You So Will has a good, good take on this judgment release. A lot of the judgment release actually comes in the later books when you're reading the story and you see how everything got created the way it is. But interestingly enough, I always found, questioning our thoughts a very powerful moving device. And what I found very powerful that helps me to move my emotions under the construct that I have built by something that it's called the work of Byron Katie. All right, so people probably just throwing spears at me right now because this is my particular way how I love doing it. But my God, if I use that, then it really helps me to shift and crack this igloo that I think I'm in. And once it's cracked, the light begins to come through. But we need to get through this construct. So today I'm going to focus a little bit on this. I'm a bit fired up today. I'm back to work again. Got an enormous amount of students that joined in, and from my cruisy 3 days a week, suddenly I'm working 4 days. And so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so one cool thing that Byron Katie kind of says, like she goes, judge your neighbor. She gives you this sheet. I just explain how it works, because even so, it's not Right You So Will. I just found this have always helped me to move and release judgment better than anything else I've ever tried, really. And so what she does, she goes, well, whatever you have an issue with, you know, you're going to have to write it down on a piece of paper. And she basically say, well, be judgmental. Don't try to be nice and spiritual and positive and saying, yeah, all is love. You know, neighbor is really pissing me off, but, you know, I forgive. It works differently. It goes, write down what you think is really going on. So think of some judgment and you have to someone, because doing it will undo it perfectly, hey? So this is how it works, right? So you find somebody or a situation that you have placed some judgments on. You probably already know of somebody who you judge as annoying or irritating. It's like these cicadas out there. By the way, there must be some kind of cicada season because they just kick in. If I open a door, this is what it's like, this high hiss, that's them. So I rather sweat here a little bit. It's about 30 degrees here. It's a nice afternoon, but still hot. So find some kind of judgment. So my partner is, you know, annoying, or my partner is controlling. All right. So here comes a question. So let's say, as an example, right, that's controlling. It comes 4 questions. One is that true? And you go, of course. You know, they're controlling. And then comes a second question, which is that cracks the igloo. You know, I mean, it does for me, does for my clients too. And second question is, can you absolutely know it's true that she's controlling or that he is annoying, right? Can you absolutely know that's true? And if you really pause for a moment, you don't know anything absolutely. Maybe they're not annoying, maybe it's something else. And what that question does, it just cracks the reality of the problem. Just for a moment, you doubt. And if you manage to doubt, your judgments are correct, you will actually begin to crack them, and there suddenly a little bit of light comes through. But as soon as you go into this slight doubt, there will be an emotion that will reflect that immediately as a shift. Because you can move emotions, allow feelings to move. But if you have certain constructs that are solid, like, and usually when we judge somebody, that's not like in the moment. That becomes a constant state of being. Like, you think of them and you just remember how annoying that is, right? So it becomes a constant. And so here comes these lovely questions, these 4 questions that will question that reality of the problem. Because, often what we think creates our reality. And maybe it's not them, maybe it's our inner reality that creates them. So that brings you a little bit into the self-construct, because you judge others, that judgment is where? It's actually not on them. How many people don't even know you judge them? How many people don't even know they annoy you? Oh. So, the ideas do not leave their source, like they say in the... oh, my son got a phone call. Okay, hopefully we won't be too loud. And so here we go again. So that was the second question. That throws in a little doubt about the reality of the problem, right? The third one is, which is wonderful, because that returns you exactly back into your body and your emotional state. And that is, how do you react when you believe that they are controlling, let's say. So now you begin to scan your body, you begin to scan your emotions. You're like, how does that, how do you react? What's your response? What's your inner response to it? And you begin to see actually what happens to you when you think that thought, right? So it gives you also an option to look at what's actually occurring in you. Yeah, it brings you back into your body. You will see how you might tense up, how you begin to frown, how you might be getting some butterflies because you're afraid to tell them whatever it is that you need to say, and so on. So you begin to observe what happens to you. And the fourth question, which is also wonderful because in the same time it shows you how would life be if you actually did not have that thought in your brain, in your mind, huh? If you didn't believe that, she's controlling or he is whatever, right? And so the question is, who would you be without that thought? And this is really important to also work with, because as much as Righteous Soul encourages us to express negative emotions, but what about the positive emotions? What about the capacity to stay in a full joy, on a full passion, or full delight, If our negative emotions are judged and nailed down, our whole body, emotional body, is deadened. It's nailed. It's like a Jesus on a cross, right? It's not moving. It's not alive. So whether you're expressing positive or negative emotions, they are all blocked. That's why Righteous Soul encourages to look more into the more unaccepted feelings and emotions. And I've done it for a long, long time. I kept focusing on negative. But one day I thought, I had enough of this now. I think I've expressed it all. How about I'm going to look at my positive emotions? So I would just sit down and I would just get an idea of something nice. It's like a good feeling. It's like just feeling good is a feeling. You can go like, oh, just try it just for a second, like feel good. Can you feel it? Just keep feeling good. And don't get disrupted by your thought patterns that grab another thought and next minute you're thinking about something else except feeling good. You say, I'm going to live in this for a moment. This is going to be my meditation. I'm going to drop myself into feeling good and notice what happens to you. You actually begin to express it until you're really finished, yeah? Until your body actually feels really enlightened by expressing that kind of quality, which is also an important feeling. And so that will increase your capacity to feel also more negative feelings. So it doesn't matter in which way you go. That's my experience. Many people have very many takes on this, but this was my journey. This is what made a huge difference. So that fourth question, who would you be without that thought that, your partner is controlling or your man is annoying? And then you just sound like, oh, God, I'd be so relieved. He says, yeah. How relieved would you be? And you go, oh, God, I'd be like, I wouldn't have to carry this burden. He said, what would that feel like? And so what I do with that, which Byron Katie doesn't really do this too much, but I think this is where he really, where one can miss out a lot on, is to actually, because we've already spent years and years being annoyed by this result of someone being annoying. And, we know it that sometimes in families and or at work, there's somebody constantly, could be for years, that are total pain in their ear. And so suddenly you just begin to experience yourself. So you've expressed a lot of negative but I'm saying, okay, now let's go the other way and let's experience life. How would it be without that reality? And when you actually begin to see how your life would be if you actually didn't hold that judgment, because you are the one who is holding the judgment, right? That's what it's called, judgment release. Yeah? And when you see what your life could be, you'll actually have been more willing to let that judgment go. And this is what we want. This is what we need. You know, we need to be able to begin to see reality shifting for us. Yeah. If you have a Groundhog Day, same day every day, similar experiences, similar situation, going to work, going from work, doing the shopping, doing this and doing that. That's again a reality constructed. So this is really important part of the right use of will, is to learn how to really release the judgment. And this is one of the things that, besides the fact that I teach men in my men's groups how to feel and how to release the constructs and the so-called negative feelings, I also introduce them all to this Byron Katie process. And it's incredible to watch how many men come back a week later and they process their son or their wife or their colleague, and they come back and he says, I had once a guy who, you know, he says, my son's lazy. Well, it's a cool judgment, right? And he never does anything. We're like, is that true? Anyway, we ran the process and he goes, next day I come home and my son mowed like 4 acres of land, just like that, without asking. He goes, that was a shocker. So I released the judgment and my reality shifted, you know. I knew a man who felt unappreciated by his wife, you know. We released the judgment and he said to me, Cole, I tell you what, I came home and my wife looked at me and she went, you know, you have no idea how much I appreciate you. So I am not kidding when I'm suggesting this process. And if you really get into it, I do recommend very, very warmly to do your mother, even if they're not around, your father, your spouse, and kids. And maybe that one colleague that just maybe drives you nuts. And maybe you have none, of course. I'm just saying. So judgment release is incredibly important in right use of will. And it comes in first, and only then it goes into the emotional release. So the first book introduces these 2 basic processes, but I would say if you can master a judgment release, you could release your reality completely and begin to enter the golden age, because, you know, a golden age does not sort to come to you. It's not like one day there will be a star alignment or some kind of, you know, the energies will precipitate in here that suddenly everything turns into gold. Zero. That's why people are waiting for a savior and they just don't look in a mirror and recognize him or her. You know, the savior is you. You know, the salvation comes from you. The golden age comes from you. The release of this reality comes from you. How? You release the construct. So, righteous of will, as it goes on, particularly in the later books, in a lot of it is really to helping you to accept belief systems lost in the subconscious, Because some of these judgments we construct, like, you know, when you're little and you hear the word God and you go, what's that? And they say something to you. And on that, what you heard, you will construct an idea of God that obviously has got nothing to do with God. And guess what? That gets lost in your subconscious, but is activated. It's still functioning. Just because it's forgotten doesn't mean it's lost. Huh? But they are lost in your subconscious and they influence your life every day. So many times when I ask people, say, hey, what's God? And you know, they give me like a long speech of what God is, and I go, yeah, what else is God? What else is God? What else is God? Until they empty out all this garbage and all these projections, no matter how holy, actually, because everything that comes from the past is past, and creation is always brand new. It's constantly a new state of existence. Are you on it, or are you still running on a program that was written 20 or 30 or 50 years ago, right? So, and to deprogram, we need to change software. And to change software, we need to write a new one, get a new one. First, we have to dump the old software. And we can't just get rid of it. We need to have a good look at it, what it is, and what's valuable and what's valueless, you know? Which of this data is enhancing my reality, and which of this data is creating the maybe not as beautiful world as you could be living in. And this is really so true, because tiny little shift in perception dislodges the mind from its fixed position, yeah? And then emotions that are underneath, that were powering it, also move and release, yeah? Often effortlessly, actually. If you think, this is also, I heard a lot, like, I've got to go and move this, right? I've got to move this emotion. Well, you don't. You just need to give that emotion space for it to move. To me, that's right. You say, well, when you become so sensitive that you go, aha, I've got this under control. So you release your structure, you release your judgments, and boom, the emotion releases the way it needs to release it, and you had virtually nothing to do with it. Just simply enjoy how it moves, or how it moves you, or it might encourage you to move your body, and then you move along with it. But it's not like you start with moving, and you want this to be different. That's not how the will work. That's just the old story, you know. I want this thus. I want it this way. So as you release judgment, you become also way more refined and sensitive, and you begin to start feeling very subtle realms of your emotional body, of your feeling body. And then you begin to enter into the depth of the will. And again, what I want to stress, and this is really great to hear, you know, Barry sending a lot of messages out there at the moment, has to do with feminine. You know, for me, Raichi Sobol is the creme de la creme of the feminine world and work. You know, the Raichi Sobol books are also called the mother's books. You know, they don't come from the father as such. However, the father aspect of creation is the one who manages to put this into writing. But the feeling itself only feels, and if it wasn't for this father aspect, then we would never have these books. So it seems like these books are coming from the, you know, I am that love, I am my light, my loving God's light. But actually, most of it comes from the mother, the feeling realm. And it's really beautiful, like in Slovakian, we have a very strong masculine and feminine language, and At the moment, I'm doing many podcasts in Slovakian for a Slovakian community, helping them with some more like like I said, like a dislodging the mind from its construct kind of work, and one beautiful thing I've realized now that I'm using Slovakian language a lot, it strikes me so strong, is that we say God, and it's automatically masculine, right? But when we say God's love, that's purely feminine expression, and it's so true. See, because God's love, God's light is the idea, huh? But God's love is that which gives manifestation to that idea. But not from the mind, like, okay, I've got an idea and this is what I've got to do. Well, guess what? Creation's got nothing to do with doing. The minute you begin to do, you're making stuff up. You're making something in the world, right? Creating is completely different. Creating is when you get an idea, you step back and you let your will to create it for you until it becomes physical. And I'm not talking about like manifesting cars or houses. I'm just talking about the golden age, that you open your eyes and you look around and you actually find yourself in a completely different reality that you ever even dream could be possible. That your chemistry in your body creates a reality of lush design, where, like I say, you begin to ooze your light. You begin to ooze your light to a point where your reflections, your friends, completely change. They become a very different people in your reality, and they can join you in this profound alchemy of what you can. You can be like the most amazing alchemist. Like, you can change your chemistry in your body just simply by allowing certain feelings to express not the way you think, right? Thought, let me tell you guys, thought is very much behind, because it went ahead of itself without the will, and so it was making stuff up, making up reality. When you look, and if you don't have this chemistry yet fully enlivened in you, you will actually see that there is some tragic reality out there, full of disease and death and sickness and suffering, right? If you're seeing that the way you're seeing it, there is a bit of a, like, you responsible. We think that this world is coming at us. It's actually a reflection of who we are. And there is one way to do it, and to go extreme positive, which denies anything that's negative, but that will not sustain on a permanent basis. You will just be mind searching for the positive aspects of creation. So you virtually surround yourself with an environment you want, and there is still an environment somewhere out there that you don't want. No, this is about transforming what we don't want, how we created something, because we also know that that is coming from us. So, this feminine aspect is going to be, and I really liked what Marie Perron, who received for us Course of Love, which has been such an amazing piece of work that for me personally integrated Righteous Soul in my heart, like Righteous Soul itself actually didn't. But that's just me. And now she came with a new book called The Way of Marys, and it's it's Mary, the mother of Jesus, speaking to her about all of these profound feminine aspects, right? And for us men too, we're actually very good at this, guys. You just have to learn how to step back and go, how am I really feeling? And now you go blank in your mind, and you just come into these moments when you just expect for things to be shown to you, the things that you haven't seen yet. Yeah, it's got to be new, because you know what? Underneath that Christmas tree that you are, if it's lit up, are these presents that if you unwrap them, you're gonna have to have some kind of amazing presents to be able to stay present for the exquisite gifts that they are. And and you will still have certain feelings come up that you don't have acceptance for. So you work on your acceptance, and you're working on steps to healing and a complete recovery till you learn how to transform all the feelings that are in there so they express the way they need to express. Once the will is free, and for me this is the true meaning of a free will. I know I've seen few ideas what people think free will is. But for me, free will was when my will was freed up from the prison that I have placed her into, and at the same time imprisoned myself with it. Because if I have a prison below me, that I've got the key to it, and I'm locked up, I'm still living in a prison, hey? The prison management lives in a prison. They think they're free, but they live in a prison, right? To some extent. And so we have to realize that we're the jailer of our emotions, and we are the one also who have the key to set them free. And most of our emotions are imprisoned due to the fact that they are being crucified, nailed, attacked, denied, suppressed, and all these little constructs that tell us how we can't express particular feelings and emotions. There is one more amazing judgment release that I found. I actually did not find that in Write You So Well, but I found it somewhere else, and I don't particularly want to promote where I found it. All I want to promote is that it's bloody good. So I'm gonna share it with you, and the article is called Last Judgment. Actually, in a second, here we go. Last Judgment. Okay. And what it actually is talking about, this is also very similar, because Last Judgment is what? We all have projected, many people still on this planet have projected that the Last Judgment is of God. In a way, it's true, because if you find a God in you, which you are, it will just show you the Last Judgment is like, you're still my beloved one, in whom I'm well pleased, of course. But until you get to that place, there might be a feeling that one day you'll be judged by God. But that judgment is very beautiful. So really, the Last Judgment is the one that we do. Imagine you come to understanding where you say, okay, this was my last judgment. I have no more, and I've decided not to condemn, because you have to condemn in order to then judge. One of those great books says, God does not forgive because God does not condemn. So here we go. Judgment release. So watch this. To judge is to decide, and to decide is to cut off other possibilities. The thing you decide to accept become part of you. Things you decide to cut off, however, are also part of you that will be projected outside of yourself. When these parts are rejected as unacceptable, they don't cease to exist as it first seems. They just go into denial. Right? If you look at the title of the second book, is I need to really brush up on my books. Oh yeah, the unseen role of denial. Okay, so this nails it beautifully, right? So when we reject something as unacceptable, it's still existing, but we just dump it into this place where we think it does not exist. However, in our subconscious, it's still fully creative, including in the middle of the night. Yeah. So in your denial of them, they remain self-aware, but cut off from the rest of you. Great difficulty to resolve when you judge against and therefore deny part of your essence, right? This is very beautiful. The ability to decide is fundamental to choice and free will, a crucial feature of this universe. You are free to create as you will, and this includes the freedom to make mistakes. In mistaken belief that perfection is what is right, it seems that mistakes are wrong. But since you and everything else in creations are evolving, mistakes are not only necessary but desirable. By the way, Barry actually recorded this whole thing. Where is it? I think it's somewhere around, if you go to a playlist, before I read this whole thing, before you go to a playlist where we did the Street Smart Spirituality podcast. There's about 15 of them, but there's actually a few more, because some of the things I suggested Barry recorded are actually in there, and this one is called The Last Judgment. And but what I want to, it's fantastic explanation, but I don't want to read all of this here. It goes into how to release judgments. Here is an easy way to do it. Whenever something bothers you, find the emotion or feeling that is associated with the problem. Next, locate the feeling in your body, and feeling into the feeling, ask yourself, do I have any judgments about this? If yes, then say it out loud and strongly in your voice. And you go, here is the thing. I tell you guys, write this down. This is unbelievable. This can shift your reality immeasurably. And also, it will suddenly make you feel guiltless, because guilt is actually made on a judgment construct. You decide something should be this way, which is a judgment. And then if you don't achieve that, you judge yourself and you feel guilty that you're not that way. So as you release judgments, you actually become guiltless. And, you will actually be amazed how simple to release the guilt can be. So here is the saying. Say, I release the judgment that I am bad because and now fill in what you judge yourself about. Yeah? And then yourself, so whatever you did or thought. So now you have changed your mind. You no longer judge yourself as bad for doing or not doing something. The next step is to change your mind about the thing itself, right? So the words to these are, I release the judgment that whatever came up with the previous judgment release, you place that in there. So I release the judgment that so-and-so is bad or wrong, okay? So I'll give you the whole thing. For example, I release the judgment that I'm bad because because I can't speak succinctly. It's my self-judgment. And I release the judgment that me not being able to speak succinctly and clear is bad or wrong. See? So if it's about me, then it will release my guilt, saying that I should be speaking better than I am, right? Now, if it's somebody else, right, you will use it slightly differently, and that will actually release the blame. Okay, so it works like this. I release the judgment that so and so is bad because he, and then fill in the gap to what they do or think or how they feel to you. So I release the judgment that John is bad because he hates me. I just made this up. And I release the judgment that John hating me is bad or wrong. See, that's a judgment. It's a judgment that hate is wrong. It's a very strong judgment. Hey? Same as, for example, anger is one of the most judged against emotions. And yet, if we could all release the anger that's held in us about whatever happened in our life and release it with love in a safe place where the anger can release itself in the most loving and accepting place, we will come into such a peace that we will no longer need to project onto the world anger and rage and hatred and all that kind of stuff, and then watch it on telly. You go like, you see what's happening over there? No, baby, this is all your stuff. And I'm telling you, you will not find the golden age and a completely different reality, not by denial or not by positive thinking, but by releasing the emotions. I beg your pardon, first releasing the judgments and constructs, which can be massive. And then release the actual emotional charge that is held behind the judgment. So can you see how judgment is the number one? And righteous soul also is very, very, very big on many different judgment constructs that we have placed, and helps us to become aware of them. Okay, so this particular process is, I would warmly recommend it. I'm happy to also to put it in one of the comments. I'll just put that whole process in so you can actually read it and use it. Because what it does, if you begin to use this in every situation you find yourself in, just have to get some fresh air. Oh, it's nice. Cicada's a bit quiet now. What happens, you will actually be able to, it's like all these judgments are like a little labels. Imagine that you standing in there and you have like thousands and thousands of labels. Every judgment you ever made at something, there it is. By the way, positive judgments are still judgments. Okay? That's what I like a lot in Byron Katie's process, that her first question is, about how are you with them, but all of the rest of the questions are, how do you want them to be different? And you say, I want John to be this way, right? See, that's a massive judgment when placed upon somebody else, to be different so we can be happy. So you go, we go straight to the first question, is that true that you want them to be there? And you will realize that what we're constantly creating is positive judgments on people, how they should be different so we can be happy. Once we release these judgments, we actually lose this need for the world to be any different than it is. And when we lose that, we will stop crucifying the Christ outside of ourselves and therefore in ourselves, and we'll resurrect, because when that happens, we will stop pushing against our own will. The will will become free. It will be free flowing flow of energy, and our Kundalini will gently rip through our whole being and give us like a continuous orgasm that we could be enjoying day in, day out, instead of sitting around studying books and listening to silly podcasts, from some dude in Australia. Anyway, guys, leave me some comments out there, and also tell me if you had enough, because I'm very happy not to talk about this as well. I usually do things like this when there is an invitation. Barry said, hey, do your corner. Some people are now liking Righteous Soul, so I'm very happy to share my experiences. But these were really fundamental key things, is to deconstruct the reality I have made up. And it seems like it is enormously huge endeavor, but it's actually doable. But it requires consistency and requires practice periods. So you can just sit there and go, hang on a second, what am I holding judgment against? And go, oh gosh. And then go, hey, who do you think you would be like without living with that judgment in your head? And then you suddenly find yourself in a very different reality. And then you have a choice. You can say, hey, but I want to have this judgment. And I said, well, bless your heart. Go and have it and, live that way. And that's all cool, because we are all free to do what we have to do. And if we really get real in ourselves, we won't hurt anyone else, because to really create this golden age that we all would love to have with our neighbors and friends is to begin with ourselves. And it begins with deconstructing something that's might not even be there. Yeah, we think there's a reality out there, but that's what we think. And because we think, we begin to see it, and then we judge it, and that nails it. I also warmly recommend to work emotionally and a judgment release more in our immediate vicinity, like the actual people in our lives, the people we relate to, rather than work on a conspiracy theories that are from some conspiracy theories. And you can go on the internet, and my God, there is no end to it. It's vast. But just what's happening around you. How are you relating to your kid? How are you relating to your man? How are you relating to your woman? How are you going with your neighbors? What is happening right here? And begin with that. What's real? What's actually physically happening? Rather than engaging too much. I think there's such a profound addiction to screens that, we keep looking at these screens, and, just really miss what's around us. And so I get off this mic and just loving to listen Barry's new things on the feminine world, and just to fully finish this, please, for your sake, spend time really finding out how you're feeling right now. How am I really feeling? And anything that mind tells you, I've got to tell you one more story. So I'm running a men's group a few days ago, and I've got 12 men in there. I'm the 13th. And I said, let's go around and let's see how you relate to your feelings. So I go, okay, first guy, how you feeling? First thing, he virtually looks into the ceiling. And I'm going like, man, there aren't any feelings up there, you know, they like below. Okay, so he cracks up and he goes like, oh man. Anyway, and he quickly sees that he's got no good attitude towards his feelings. So we go to the next guy. And I go, so how are you feeling? Straight to the ceiling. I was like, hey guys, can you observe what's happening? Everybody, when I ask them how they feel, they go into their head. And the head goes then up and out, you know? So I go to the third guy, and now we already know the trick. So I'm going, how you feeling? Straight to the ceiling. I'm like, hey guys, is this for real? And seriously, there was like 6 men. The minute I asked them how they feel, immediately they go into their visual realm where there's no feelings in there. There are pictures, images, and it's good. I like his thoughts and inspiration, and it's all up there. Thank you. But when it comes to feeling, we look down, we go, how am I feeling? And then we pause and we step back and we open a space. This is very important. Like, okay, I'm opening space for my feelings to reach me, right? And let me tell you, anything that comes within a minute, don't worry about it. Seriously. Even if you already think you know what you're feeling, well, that was a while back. But right now, in this very moment, right? How am I really feeling? And what do? Step back, and I go quiet. And now I'm receptive. And I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I really see it very beautifully with my partner because, my God, she knows everything I feel. Really, that's such a beautiful reflection. And so she goes, how are you feeling, Carl? And I go like, I go into silence. And I wait. You know, and it comes this moment where I go, God, I should be telling her now something. I should be having it by now. That's still your guilt and your judgments telling you that you know, you should be doing better than you are. So very important to learn for both genders. And you can check with your partners, with your ladies, like ask her how she feels. I tell you, within 10 seconds you will probably hear a story, and that's not a feeling, that's a description of what we think. So let me introduce this right use of will as something that does not move very fast in most cases. It can be very fast, but in most cases it's a very subtle, often dismissed energy that has profound information for us. But the ego rushes in, the mind rushes in, the mind constructs the judgments to establish their impotence in our lives. And now we think we know what we feel. The next step is usually the usual emotionality, which is a wonderful and very important step. It's like, how are you really feeling? And suddenly you're like, oh, gosh, I'm feeling a bit teary. But that's still not it, okay? It's very good not to be dismissed, to be virtually embraced. And very, very important thing, please don't hear me that I've got anything against emotions, right? But keep going, wait longer. And it's really beautiful to see with my partner, because we sit there together and then I don't say anything. Actually don't say. And she goes, oh yeah. Oh, I really get it. And I go, oh yeah, I get it too. And then there is this very subtle feeling, but it's talking. It's, you know, many books talk about the voice of God. Actually, it's not necessarily the words. It's this different, it's like a forgotten language of God, is feeling. And to learn how to step back, ask, how am I feeling? And pause and wait. And really practicing that patience. And, you know, maybe expressing how much you freaking hated it takes so long. It's also fine. But to stay and stay and stay. Because, you know, this whole goddess thing, guys, it's all about feeling. It's all about feeling. Okay, so I was going to bring this to a close. Thanks very much, and I'll catch up with you soon. Much love to everyone. Mwah.